when you're an athlete, top elite athlete, when you're special forces, you see people, as civilians, the others, because I've been engineered to win. I've been engineered to kill.
Flamini, oh, it's his night. Flamini, goal for Arsenal. For Flamini.
And what did you learn from Arsene Wenger about leadership?
Wow.
Hardest player you've played against?
Messi.
Best player you've played with? Did you find it hard to retire? And how did you find it when your sort of abilities are beginning to decline?
I never went into too many details, but most of my friends got married. I don't think I've been to any wedding.
He's played for AC, Milan, Crystal Palace, Arsenal, and now he's the CEO of a biochemicals company.
There's this story of you sort of leaving Arsenal training in a kind of suit and tie, going off to business meetings while other players might be playing video games or something.
That's true, because...
Welcome to Jimmy's Jobs of the Future.
Thank you.
What are the parallels between being an entrepreneur and being an elite athlete?
Look, I think there are many. They are not maybe like right away obvious, but maybe I'll give you a few examples. The first one is having to perform under pressure. I think whether you are playing on a pitch in front of millions of people, or whether you are an entrepreneur which is taking a mortgage on his house and investing, his savings and onboarding his whole family. These expose you to a tremendous amount of pressure. But this is something also you have to digest, to deal with, and to be able to perform the same way as being on a pitch or being an entrepreneur. Another aspect is also having to work hard, having to sacrifice, having to dedicate, I will say, your days, your night. Being an entrepreneur is like being an athlete, it's about having an obsession, it's about having an idea, a vision, and doing everything possible to achieve it. So I think you have a big aspect which is also resilience. Being an athlete is about putting everything you have in it. Being an entrepreneur, I think it's something probably maybe even harder. Okay. So it's about full commitment, hard work, dedication, sacrifice. So those things which you find, when you're an athlete, but when also you're an entrepreneur. And I think teamwork, team spirit, being able to lead and onboard people in order to go in the same direction. I think you will never win a football game if you are a one-man show. Same when you're an entrepreneur. I don't know one entrepreneur who have achieved big things by himself without bringing a team around him.
Yeah.
So those are parallel you see in sport, but you also see when you're an entrepreneur.
And what did you learn from Arsene Wenger about leadership?
Wow. I played many, many years under Arsene Wenger, so it's difficult maybe to pick up on one thing in particular. But I think what Arsene was always pushing us to was to take risk, to take responsibility, and not to be scared of trying. I think many people think in life or you win or you lose. I believe or you win or you learn, and the worst thing in life is to live with regrets, not having tried enough, not having done everything possible to make it happen. And I think Arsene has always pushed us, from a very young age, because when I arrived in London, I was no more than 19 years old, was to try. Don't be scared of trying. It is worth trying. And if you don't try, you cannot make it happen. So that's one of the things, taking risk and trying. That's something which I've learned under his commandment.
And I'm fascinated by the recruitment process in football and comparing that to entrepreneurship and hiring, because one of the things that entrepreneurs talk about is getting the culture fit right. You can hire for skills, of course, that's important. But as a footballer, the observation is that you are predominantly recruited on a skill-based side of things. How much, you're a 19-year-old, how much were you interviewed by Arsene Wenger for the job at all?
I think the process is very different when it comes to sport, football, and I would say the corporate side. When it comes to sport, is very much based on data, I will say. I mean, like everything is public. Let's not forget that at that level you cannot hide.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, like we see every single move you do on the pitch. We analyze every single stats about yourself. So I would say the recruitment is much more straightforward, based on your analytics and based on your performance. What I will have the tendency to say is when you in sport, when you're going to invest tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions on a player, the tendency we have is to forget to maybe also investigate about the mind, okay, of the person, the background of the person, his mental stability. You know, like when you make an investment in a company, you do a pure due diligence, right? On what has happened in his company. I mean, like what the background, the people. I think maybe what we have as a tendency in sport is maybe to forget to also like do a proper due diligence on, I mean, like the man. Because, you know, like you're not only a football player, but you're also like a human being. And this all part is not something we have the tendency to analyze enough when we invest, I mean, in sport into a player. When it comes to the corporate side, I think it's a totally different approach, I will say. I mean, at such a high level in sport, as I was saying, you cannot hide. Okay, I mean, like, and you're being judged on what you produce, you know, like during 90 minutes on the pitch. The rest of the time, I mean, like, you can do whatever you want as long as you are able to perform. In a corporate side, it's different. Obviously, like, I would say, can be part of a team where you can potentially hide, you know, when there is a hiring process. I mean, like, not everything is public.
Yeah.
So it's not like you have a full transparency on the background of the person, on the past 5 to 10 years. You don't know the type of performance. So I would say it's a much harder process when you hire someone because you don't have as much transparency, I would say.
Yeah.
And you're basing your opinion on a CV. You can put anything you want on a CV. I mean, like, and then if you're lucky, you're going to meet the person 1, 2, 3 times before you hire her.
Yeah.
So it's a much difficult process, I will say.
What questions do you like to ask when you're hiring now?
Wow, that's a good one. I like to ask the person about passions. I like to ask the person about qualities, limitations. How would she or he deal with a difficult situation? Her or his style of management. Look, I'm someone who like to... I don't take no for an answer. Okay? And I think like if you're an entrepreneur, I mean, that's what you have to. I got a lot of no in my life, and I've also turned those no like in many years. So what I look for when, you know, like through a recruitment process is for those people who don't stop at a no. And basically, if you can get in by the door, I mean, like, how do you get in by the windows or the chimneys? You know, like, because the reality is like what we do is not easy.
Yeah.
And probably if it was, I will not be there. You know, as an athlete, I like the challenge. I like the adrenaline. I like to win.
Yeah.
And I'm looking for winners.
And how did... you talked about onboarding there. How did like Arsenal onboard you when you're kind of 19? Because, you know, you're young, French, coming to a foreign city, etc.
So I grew up in Marseille. My dad has Italian origins. My mom is from Corsica. So, and living in Marseille from a very young age, I think like you have to be a Olympique of Marseille fan. So I signed my first football license at the age of 5 for the club of Marseille. And I've done all my, I would say, formation at Marseille.
Yeah.
I also had the chance at the age of 18 to play for the first team of Marseille at the time I was playing with Didier Drogba. And things didn't turn out the way I wanted because obviously, like as a young player playing for the team of Marseille, I was always dreamed to sign my first professional contract for Marseille. It didn't happen for various reasons. And I moved to Arsenal. I think at the time, Arsenal was very much like a Frenchy team with Arsène Wenger leading it. You had a lot of other French players from Robert Pires to Thierry Henry to Patrick Vieira. And I would say it was borderline a natural move to move to the most French team in UK, and I loved it. I loved it. Look, I arrived. I was a kid.
And you joined just after the Invincibles season as well, right? So you're going into one of the most elite dressing rooms that's ever existed.
Yeah, I moved to a team with like superstar. Everyone was very humble. Everyone was working very hard, and I was part of a team. We knew what it was taking to win. So I arrived as a kid. I became a teenager. I experienced the top level here in London, and I think I built like a very strong and particular relationship with the fans. What I loved in UK is like we value hard work, and we value authenticity and people who put the heart on the field. And I think this is a little bit like the definition for me of honesty. You know, like is putting your life on the line when you have to perform and you have to give everything to win.
I sometimes think the French and the English speak different languages, but actually the cultural similarities are sometimes quite strong. That sort of like passion, putting a shift in, is like really counts in both France and England in some ways. And then you started the company, or you started experimenting with it at kind of age 24?
I was a bit older. It was around like 2012, 2013. I was already at the time playing for AC Milan.
Yeah. But there's this story of you sort of leaving Arsenal training and so on in a kind of suit and tie, going off to business meetings while other players might be playing video games or something.
That's true, because let's not forget, so I played for Arsenal first round.
Yeah.
I moved to AC Milan, where I played 5 years, and I was one of the few who were allowed to come back to Arsenal under Arsene Wenger. So that was the second round.
Yeah.
And yes, look, I grew up by the sea. My father used to be a diver by passion, so I used to join him, and I still remember the collect of waste, plastic on the beach. I grew up, with the French David Attenborough, which was called Commandant Cousteau. So with this generation of like explorers, like trying to bring, like nature into our living room. So I was, since a very early age, very much aware of the negative impact of the humankind on our environment. And I always wanted to do something in this space. I think after my biggest love for football, there was a real passion around sustainability. And while I was playing for AC Milan, at the time I was probably one of the youngest, with Pato and other Brazilian players, and most of the other guys were 30 and plus. So in football, you're already like close to the exit. And we also had, as the owner, Silvio Berlusconi, which was also an entrepreneur. And being part of this environment with the owner, which was pushing his players to think outside the box, with already like players which were part of the older generation, which were already thinking about what will come after the life as an athlete. I also wanted to, on my side, to see what could be of an experience there.
So when did you start thinking about, okay, this is what I might want to do next, or was it something that you always wanted to do? Like, when was the sort of like thought process of it all?
So first of all, I believe in serendipity. Like life is exciting because you don't know what's going to happen, right? You meet people, your opportunity are being created, and I was at the time playing for AC Milan, met with a number of people, met some friends, met some scientists. And what we understood from early time is like there was going to be a shift, okay, from, I will say, a oil derivative industry to a clean and more sustainable, industry. And basically engaging with scientists, they were the one guiding me and my other co-founder in that direction. And that's why at the time we decided to put together a team of scientists, okay, and to start that journey.
Yeah.
And to be totally honest with you, I studied law for like a couple of years before to become a footballer professional. So I didn't have any chemical background at all, and to even be further in the reasoning. Life is a bit of a paradox because, I take this example quite a few times, but when I was going to school, there was two subjects I really disliked. first was English. And I'm ending up like speaking like 90% of my time in English today. I even like on a family chat, I'm borderline writing in English because my French became so bad at writing. And there was chemistry. And I'm running today a biochemical company. So look, that's why, I think life is a paradox and it's important to believe in your dream. So being in AC Milan, put a team of scientists together, we identify one of those molecules, which was at the time identified by the US Department of Energy as one of the molecules of the future, which haven't been developed at large scale.
Yeah.
And I thought the challenge was big enough to start it. And that's how everything started. And that's how we created the company over a decade ago.
So what does the company look to do?
So maybe I like to highlight, so the chemical industry is the mother of every industry. Why? Because everything we touch, everything we use in our everyday is based on the petrochemical industry. Okay, most of the ingredients we are using today, which are part of formulations like shampoo. Shampoo is a formulation. Okay, a home cleaning product is a formulation. Those formulations are made of ingredients, and most of those ingredients still today are oil derivatives. What we do, we have developed technology to convert agriculture waste, so biomass, into plant-based ingredients. And those plant-based ingredients are ending up in the everyday product we are using today. And we allow those everyday products to be, one, safer, and two, more sustainable. So to give you a concrete example, those ingredients can be in shampoo to replace silicone, because silicone is not biodegradable, it accumulates in nature. Our ingredients can be in candles. Today, if you are, burning, candles home, they are using solvent, which are basically coming from hydrocarbons. Air diffusers, those air diffusers, which you are using in your house today, are using solvent. Some of them were even reclassified carcinogenic. We are replacing the solvent by safe and sustainable ingredients. Those are the things we do. We also do like plant-based pesticides in order for you to have access to food which is not have to be contaminated. So this is for me like super exciting because I really have an impact in the life of people in the everyday.
And there's obviously there is quite a tradition of some footballers going off and doing entrepreneurial things, but it tends to be much more in the kind of broadcast or media space, or perhaps clothing, somewhere where they can kind of use the name and the distribution channels that they've built up through social and so on. But you've taken a really hard problem here.
Yeah, let's say I've pushed the envelope a bit further. I think for many, many years or even generations, an athlete or football player was not always necessarily allowed to first share his opinion and to express his other passions. Because as I was saying before, we see a football player, for 90 minutes on the pitch, and we have the tendency to forget that behind a football player or behind an athlete, there is a human being, who also have other passion, other interest, other topics which are close to his heart. That's why I always encourage athletes to first speak up for, the passions, for the visions, for the opinions, as long as they are, I will say, knowledgeable about it. And two, I'm also part of this new generation of athletes who want to explore the other passions. That's why, my biggest love was football. But I also had a passion for sustainability, climate change. I wanted to contribute to this, to bring solutions and to bring a small contribution to it. And part of this new generation of kids, who cares about the future and want to set up new standards. So that's what's important for me. That's why I also used my platform to be able to communicate about the problem, to also communicate about the solutions. And that's what we see more and more. We see athletes also standing up for the beliefs. We see also athletes joining ventures, whether it is in technology or whether it is in other sectors. But what I did, was to become an executive. I'm the CEO of the company on top of being the co-founder. And I'm probably busier today than what I was before.
Yeah, because that's it. You're not just an ambassador. Your job is the chief executive, right?
So I'm the co-founder. So the company is called GF Biochemicals, and the F is for Flamini. And I am the CEO since 2022, when we onboarded, some very key investors in the company. So I'm leading the company. I'm trying to leverage all my learning from my sport career into my new life of an entrepreneur and executive.
What's the biggest difference between them?
Well, look, there are many, but I think as an athlete, as a player, I will say you have to give 200%, I will say 2 or 3 times a week. Okay, you're being judged for the 90 minutes. I mean, when you're going to play on a Saturday or when you're going to play on a Wednesday. After that, you are able to switch off. Obviously, there are limitations because, wherever you live, you bubble. The reality is catching you. You go to a restaurant, you're going to interact with fans. You go in the street, you're going to interact, with people who love you for who you are, and love can also sometimes be overwhelming. So this is the life of an athlete. When you're an entrepreneur, when you're a founder, you carry your problem non-stop. When you go in holidays, I can guarantee you it is very, very hard, or that's something I haven't mastered yet, very hard to disconnect. And that can impact your surrounding, your girlfriend, your wife, your kids, your family. It is very difficult to switch off. Well, when you're an athlete, it is important for you to switch off. It is important for you to basically cut with this pressure, to turn off your mind, okay? I will say it is easier when you're an athlete. It is harder when you're an entrepreneur because, it is non-stop. You have people depending on you, the families.
Yeah.
You also have people are counting on you to set up a vision. When things don't go well, people count on you to solve them. You're supposed to know better. And to be totally honest with you, being an athlete, being an entrepreneur can also be a very lonely place. Because sometimes you don't know and you have to pretend you know. Because, it's if others don't and the CEO or the boss don't know, it create even more I would say frustration or a fear, in your team. So being an entrepreneur, it's a very lonely journey. But being an athlete also, so those are also some of the parallel, you find, as being an athlete. Sometimes you do a terrible game, you lose because of you. I can tell you, you feel very small in your shoes and there are not many people who can make you feel better. When you're an entrepreneur and if sometimes, things doesn't turn out the way you would like, it's difficult to open up and speak to people around you. You have to deal with this pressure, with failure on your own. And you have to find the solutions.
What was the most challenging thing about being a footballer?
I think it was, I would say, when you're an athlete and your life is public, when every single move you make, is being commented. I think for me, it was easy for me to deal with it. Because from a very early age, you build yourself protections, you set up yourself into a bubble. What was hard for me, it was potentially the impact it was having on my family. And potentially the impact it could have, on the people around me. Because very quickly, you learn to deal with it. And you just focus on the love. Because the reality is in every marriage, you have some up, you have some down. When you love someone very much, sometimes you can have difficult reactions. You you can express different feelings, like hate, love, jealousy, being possessive. All those things, like is part of your love story with the fans. Is part of your love story with like those people who are willing to die for the shirt. So I understand all this, and from a very early age you get used to it. But when like your family is having to deal with those things, they are not always prepared.
Yeah.
And it put a lot of pressure on them, and you see people change. You see people change around you. They have different expectations. They have different needs, and this is not always easy to deal with those things.
Can you give an example of the stress that it brought on a family member?
Yeah, look, playing for Marseille and then leaving Marseille and moving to Arsenal. It was not understood by everyone why I was leaving. At the time, I didn't have the choice. I never went into too many details, but leaving, a club where I played for so many years, it was for me very difficult. But I did it because, first I didn't have the choice, and two, it was an incredible opportunity to play for a club such as Arsenal. They were at the highest level. They were having a dressing room which was made of superstars. So for me, it was an evolution in my career. But it was not understood, at the time, in Marseille. And when I left, my family was still there. They had to deal with a lot of comment, a lot of, judgment. And it's not easy, for individuals which are not prepared for that.
Yeah, I have this theory that actually being a footballer, if you take the money out of it, it's actually really quite a tough job. There's 9-10 months of the year when you can't go away. You are quite restricted in lots of ways. Lots of people comment on you, etc. And you're often not in control of where you're going and so on. I think there's a whole side to being a footballer that is not really put out there.
Look, I will not complain because I've lived my dream.
Yeah.
Okay, as a young kid, I always wanted to be a football player, and I was lucky enough to live off my passion. So I think that's what I wish every single kid, to believe in his dream and to make it happen. So I will not complain, and I embraced it. I think competition is something which is very, very aggressive. Having to deal with competition every single day of your life. But it makes you stronger, I would never be who I am today if I didn't have that journey. So I would not complain, and I enjoyed it every second, and I miss it, miss it very much. The dressing room, the team, I have the tendency always to compare, being in a team of athletes, very much as being special forces.
Yes.
The dedication, the level of involvement, putting, your life on the line because, it's winning or losing, it's about a millisecond, and in order to win, you have to give it all. And special forces, they have the same mindset. It's me or you.
Yeah.
And you're going to do everything to make sure it's you and not me. So, this mental strength which you develop as an athlete, this is something I leverage every day in my life. This is resilience aspect. And that's why when you're an athlete, top elite athlete, when you're special forces, you see people, as civilians, the others, because I have been engineered to win.
Yeah.
I've been engineered to kill. If you want to win on the pitch, you face your opponent. It's going to be him on me.
Yeah.
The same when you're on a battlefield, so we have developed this survival instinct, this mindset, because sport is 70, if not 80%, mindset. Because at that level, everybody is strong, everybody is good technically, physically. So it's all about the mind. And the mind, this is something which is super powerful, we don't realize enough. So on the football side, I will say, yes, of course, there is all the shiny part. But what people don't always see is how lonely it is, how painful it can be. I think for nearly 20 years, I didn't go to bed or waking up in the morning where I wasn't feeling broken, you twist your knee, you twist your ankle. You get a lot of players live on anti-inflammatory, which is not good at all. And I remember like a discussion with Arsene Wenger saying that there was a study at the time for Olympic athletes. And they asked them the question, will you rather die before 40 but be an Olympic winner? Or will you be willing to die very old in your bed and not win anything? And I think 80% of basically the athlete answered they will be willing to die before 40 and be winners. This shows you how much dedication and how much you are willing to put your life on the line to win. And that's what sports gives you. And this is huge sacrifice. I mean, you cannot plan anything. I mean, you have a 3 weeks off. The rest of your time, you're on duty.
Yeah.
Meaning like you train every day. I mean, especially when you're in UK, I mean, like you play for Boxing Day, you play on the 1st of January. So you really need to love, I mean, what you do. I mean, because it's a tremendous amount of pressure. I mean, like you cannot live on the past. Every 3 days, you have millions of people who are going to judge you. And you can't hide. When you're on a football pitch, you cannot hide.
2 questions here. Did you find it hard to retire? And how did you find it when your sort of abilities are beginning to decline?
So it's funny. I was discussing that today with a close friend. We were discussing about the art of exiting, you know, and we were saying that it is very difficult to basically leave at the right time. Because, I mean, being an athlete, playing at the very highest level, I mean, it's about adrenaline. It's about getting so much love, affection, the communion with the fans. You know, like when you playing at Arsenal, you know, like at the Emirates or even before at Highbury, I mean, like, this is like total communion. You know, like I don't see anything, you know, like which is a better feeling, you know, like even you know, like even sex is not as good as that, I will say, you know, like, so it's I don't know how to describe it, but it's so intense.
Yeah.
You know, like then it's difficult to leave it behind. And that's why leaving at the right time is not something which is easy. On my side, look, I loved football more than anything else. It was a dream. And as I said before, I was privileged enough to live my dream. But, you know, I started like from a young age to think already what will come after. You know, it's like sometimes, you know, like I also had a discussion with another close friend of mine who lost his dad and his mom on the same day. And he was telling me, look, we don't speak about death enough, you know. And as an athlete, somebody said, we'll die twice. We die when we stop our career, when we retired, and we die, you know, like when we get old. This is real, you know. So I think talking about death, you know, like is getting prepared for it. And speaking about retirement, what will come after the life of an athlete, speaking about it early enough to get prepared for it mentally, and also like getting prepared because when you're an athlete, everything is well organized. I mean, clubs taking care of everything. The day you stop, the light switch off. And then you need to find structure. You need to find a new discipline. You need to find a new motivation. You need to find like a new adrenaline, a new challenge. This is not easy. You have to reinvent yourself. That's why you see a lot of athletes still staying in the sport world. They go to TV, they are agents, they are coaches, because this is what they know. This is what they know the best, you know. But it's not easy to basically apply those learning to other sector or other industry.
Totally. Just on the death point, for death, we've worked with a company called Octopus Legacy on writing your will, and I have talked about this before on it. Like, it is amazing doing that process of like writing your will out. I talked about how it had such a big kind of like impact on me. You kind of write a final letter to people and so on. It's quite like, and I think you're right. We totally don't talk about it enough, and it can be vastly improved if we do. I mean, I think it's a particularly British thing, but yeah, no, it's interesting. So How did you make that switch then? So because you finished at Getafe, right? So you're playing in Spain, and what was the process like of that kind of like first year after of not being a professional?
Look, I mean, first of all, I think I started my career very young. So I was barely 18 playing for the first team in Marseille. And I think what I'm the most proud is having last for so long. Because if today you ask me what's the hardest, is it to get there or is it to stay there? I'll tell you it is to stay there 100%. And that's one of the things I'm very proud that I've been playing, at such a high level for such a long period of time. So I reached more or less, I was 35, I reached a point of my life where I think I didn't have anything else to prove, to myself or to the football world, because I've played there for such a long time. I was also not willing to do the sacrifices anymore. And I also wanted to live.
Yeah.
And when I say living, meaning do the simple things as going on a weekend with your friend, going to a birthday, going to a wedding. Most of my friends got married. I don't think I've been to any wedding for 20 years because, I was always on the road and, enjoying my family, seeing my parents getting older and having the opportunity to spend more quality time with them instead of having to do my, New Year's, as a hotel room because I'm playing on the first. Yeah. So I just wanted to get back to a more simple and easy life and do what people do during the life. So that's why I naturally, I would say, moved to it was a new beginning. But I was already prepared for that because I started I would say, after career, young enough to be mentally ready, to already have a kind of a structure and to know what I was going to do. So I was mentally ready and I was excited and I was moving towards something I was passionate about. And I was moving towards something which was exciting me. And more importantly, I had another challenge.
Yeah.
And I think as an athlete, we are addicted to adrenaline and we are challengers, meaning we love for the challenge, that's why for me, having a new challenge, having, be able to fulfill another passion was very important.
And what is the adrenaline that you get now? Because adrenaline's a very kind of specific rush, right? Where do you get that now in business?
Wow. So I consider myself very lucky and privileged. First, as I was telling you, because I lived off my passion for so many years. But today, that dream is being extended. I'm lucky enough to meet the most inspiring, incredible people. From head of states to president of European Commissions. To people who are truly, changing things, having a global positive impact. I'm lucky enough to meet other incredible founders. I'm lucky enough to meet deal makers. I'm lucky enough to meet people who have those strong desire to have an impact. People who are living with purpose. People who are living with meaning. And if I look at my life, it's super exciting. I was in Davos 2 months ago. I was lucky enough to meet with Christine Lagarde, I was lucky enough to meet the French president a couple of times in the past few months. I was lucky enough to meet with the president of the European Commission and being involved with a very important topic such as the chemical strategy in Europe. So all those meetings are for me super exciting because it generates one, a lot of adrenaline.
Yeah.
Two, it's about having the opportunity to have an impact. And more importantly, this impact is being I would say fulfilled by a real purpose. I always, tell people around me, what's your purpose? And they look at me with a very weird, very weird look, but is it true? Why do you wake up every day? What's your meaning? What's the meaning in your life? So those are questions I ask myself.
Yeah.
And I'm super happy of having an answer, because many people around don't have an answer, and it's not easy to find your purpose and to find your meaning.
And you met King Charles as well, I saw from your Instagram.
Yes,
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to meet him twice in the past 6 months. Someone I respect and I admire very much, because he's someone who have been involved and standing up for climate change for many, many, many decades now. I mean, he has been very vocal about it, and he's trying to bring the private sector together in order to drive change. And I respect him very much for that. He was a visionary person, because he was speaking about it already before, many, many others. And this is super inspiring.
Yeah. No, he's fantastic, and he's just amazing in those moments. I do some work with the King's Awards for Enterprise, so I've met him a couple of times, and yeah, he's
a great leader.
He really is. And talk to us a bit about, we were chatting off camera beforehand about biohacking and so on. Like, talk us through your approach to that, how you deal with it, because that is such a big part for a professional athlete, right? Like, in terms of what you're putting into your body.
It is. I think this is also sometimes we don't always realize, but I mean, so winning and losing, the margins are so small, okay? And it takes it takes like a millisecond, like small inch to lose a game, okay? So once you understood that, you realize that every small percent you can put on your side to improve your performance is critical. So at that level, you start thinking like, okay, if I sleep enough, I gain X% of performance. If I eat healthy, I gain X% of performance. If I drink enough water, I gain X% of performance. I mean, training on a pitch, massage, stretching, recovery, all this makes your performance stronger. And that's something you can also apply in your life. Because when you're a CEO, when you're an entrepreneur, and you're facing so much pressure, you're working 15 hours a day, you treat yourself as an athlete. So once you start understanding the why, and once you start having access to information, because information is power, you start applying it in your life. And small things such as drinking water. Why drinking water? Okay, you have heard that drinking water is important, but if we don't tell people why it's important, it's irrelevant. Your brain is 70 to 80% water. Your heart is 70 to 80% water. The same as your skin, your muscles. If you don't drink enough water, your brain doesn't function at 100%. Your heart doesn't function at 100%. So if you want to optimize your performance as a human being, you need to drink at least 2 to 3 liters of water a day. I don't eat any animal protein. Why? Because during my career, I understood that if I wanted to perform better, I had to cut animal protein to reduce the risk of injuries. Considering today that most of the fish or meat which is being produced is industrial, is farmed, it is using so many and so much antibiotics.
Yeah.
Because I want to live longer and to live better, I'm trying to apply the same, recipe. Cut animal protein in order to first lower my acidity in my bloodstream, to reduce the risk of cancer, and two, to make sure I'm not eating antibiotics every time, I'm having some animal protein. So those are small, I will say like biohack I'm trying to apply on my everyday. I'm also eating once a day.
Yeah.
Why? Because, first of all, I train much less than I used to.
Yeah.
And by eating once a day, I do a small reboot every day. I let my body regenerate. My digestive system, is rebooting every day. And it's a small detox I do. I think it's also it's been a journey. I would not tell people to go from 1 to 100 in one day, no. But as a small step, if you go one day plant-based, one day animal protein, you're already reducing by 50%, the input. So it's about a journey. It's about what's good for me is not always necessary good for others. But applying, certain principle to your everyday is very important, And it's about getting better and, performing better and living longer.
Do you eat at breakfast, lunch, or dinner then? When do you?
I have early dinner. So I'm trying to eat around 6:30, 7. And during the day, I'm back to back with my meetings, back to back with interviews. I don't even feel it.
Yeah.
And whenever I feel a little bit like eating something, I have some nuts, something super light, and it helped me to last. It also like very interesting studies have shown that basically like you slow down your aging
Yeah.
when you reduce your eating because your body starts generating, substance which slow down your aging. So it has like a tremendous, like upside in doing that. And considering also that unfortunately like we're surrounded by processed food, like the food we're eating, those days is using a lot of like artificial substances. Like also reducing your input is cutting this amount of substances which are not good for your health.
How have you found that as being part of the French culture of food is just such a big way of life?
I agree with you, and the Italian one, but it's all about like, I don't see it as some people see it as like a minus, a sacrifice. I see it as an upside. I don't touch butter. I use olive oil. I like to cook. So, like I'm so much up for like fruit, vegetables. I do the best salad. I love quinoa. I love rice. I'm also like not black and white, meaning like I love a 4-cheese pizza on a weekend. But people have the tendency to say I'm going to eat like six days on a really bad food, and once a week I'm going to do like small detox. No, it should be the opposite.
Yeah.
Like you should basically eat super healthy 5 to 6 days a week and allow yourself, like one day where you let yourself go. So it's all about balance.
Yeah.
I think it's all about balance. But my advice is, look, don't touch processed food. You should be able to, buy things which are not transformed. Tomatoes, salad, rice, quinoa, and cook for yourself. Like that's the advice. And being half Italian, half French, I love cooking. And that's, like the best way to basically like avoid to have to deal with this processed food, which is like really, really having a negative impact on people. There was a study showing that in the US, last year, first time in the past 80 to 100 years, life expectancy has been reducing. How is that possible?
Yeah.
How is that possible?
I do find that kind of like a staggering statistic. What would be in your salad of choice if we were coming around your house for early dinner?
You will get like some quinoa, or if not some brown rice. You will have some tomatoes. You will have some chickpeas. You will have some broccolis.
Yeah.
I like chopped salad. I like to cook. It's one of the few things who really takes my mind away. I'm someone, like I'm thinking all the time. Sometimes I think too much, and my surrounding can see me when I'm thinking. My eyes, like they're lost in the stars. But like cooking, doing sport, those are one of the things who really take my mind away.
What does the next 10 years look like? You've had such an interesting and varied career now, and there are so many options available to you as a former athlete, but also having run really credible businesses. What does the next 10 years hold?
So in a few words, you're asking me, what do I wish for myself?
Yeah.
Look, first of all, I think like being healthy, I think is a priority. Like we have the tendency also to forget and how lucky we are. Like when we are healthy and we can do whatever we want, like even a run or walk in a park. Like this is a real blessing, so being healthy, still being surrounded by my family, by my friends, by people I truly love, because I think the older you get, the smaller the circle become, and the more time you want to give to the people you truly love. So I think like still be surrounded by the people I love. Definitely make a family. Like having kids. Like it's also like something I really really want to achieve. And to keep doing what I love the most. I think like sometimes people are asking me like, what advice would you like to give? Like I don't think I'm good at giving any advice. I think like everyone is different, and everyone has different background, life experiences. But I mean, if there is one thing I can say is like, do what you love. Do what you love, because life is way too short to wake up in the morning and going to do something which you don't. So basically it's like, do whatever is required, do whatever is necessary for you to do something you love, something you're passionate about.
Would politics ever tempt you, French politics?
Look, right now, I mean, this is not on my radar. I don't think this is something I will do in a near future. But yeah, I think like we live in a world where we have the tendency to tell, I mean, the next generations, like that it's not allowed anymore to believe in the dream. And that's what I love about sport and football in particular, is the fact that you can be a nobody, you can be coming from a very unprivileged background, and you could succeed.
Yeah.
And that's
it's
why
very meritocratic, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why sport and football, I mean, like, is still one of those few industries who still bring people together, people from different background, different religion, different origin, different language, brings people together, unite them, and you see the same in a football team.
Yeah.
And that's something I really admire. And this something will still bring hope, and will still tell the next generation and young kids, you are still allowed to believe in your dream. And we live in a world where more and more it's not an option anymore.
Yeah.
And I feel this is sad. So that's why, I mean, like, I think sport has this power, and definitely, like, if tomorrow I have kids, I would love them to be part of a team. Because, from a very early age, it teaches you to adapt. It teaches you to get out of your bubble and basically, like, interact with people who come from a different origin, different culture, different religion. You have to find your place in a team. The same way you have to find your place in this world, and you deal with, like, hard work, you deal with competition.
Yeah.
Like, dealing with competition is not easy. Most of people, as soon as they have to face competition, they disappear. You have to embrace competition, because competition makes people better.
Yeah.
It makes you better. It gets you out of your comfort zone, because the reality is, like, where you learn the most is when you're out of your comfort zone. I mean, like, most of the time, I mean, like, we don't think about that.
Yeah.
So that's why competition is very important. It's not something we teach at school, or at least we don't teach it enough. That's why sometimes, like I see in a company I've built, like, sometimes I'm very direct. Like, I'm very direct. I don't have much filter. I expect people to be transparent and direct and honest with me. Like, I hate, like, to be too politically correct.
Yeah.
Like, if you care about someone, you owe that person honesty, transparency, and that's how I am. Like, and it's not always easy, because, like, maybe, like, I would say, like, in a more corporate world, you have to be more politically correct. You have to be much more soft in your approach. But the reality is, like, I love to win.
Yeah.
And in order to win, you need to build a winning team. And if you associate winners, I remember when I used to play for Arsenal, when I used to play for AC Milan, I mean, for me, what was very important was, like, okay, what are the ambition of the club?
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, like, are we going to be able to recruit the best players? I mean, like, is this year, are we going to go fighting for the title race, or are we going to simply, like, be part of this Premier League? It was super important. So for me, it seems obvious that if someone is in my team, they're going to want to win the big trophy. And if you want to win the big trophy, you need to be surrounded of, like, the best people. For that, I mean, you need to be very, very much demanding with yourself and very much demanding with others, because we're all on the same boat. I remember being in a team. We don't wait for the manager to come and to tell us to move ourselves.
Yeah.
If you don't do the job, you're bringing me down. And I expect the same, like, from my team. Like, I expect all of them to be wanting to be successful. And if somebody next to you doesn't do the job, it brings you down. So I believe it is your job also to say, hey, we need more from you, because if not, we're going to slowly die together.
How do you identify that talent, though? Right, we talked about it right at the start. Football, it's easier. There's systems and there's setups. When you're doing it in private sector and business, how do you go about identifying that talent?
I think this is one of still my limitations. I don't think I'm good enough at identifying, to be spot on.
Yeah.
I think I've made a lot of mistake in the past, and I'm trying, as I said before, you win or you learn, right? I mean,
So what have you learned about hiring?
Look, I think it's about, it's not always necessary about the expertise, it's about also the mindset, okay? Because expertise can be acquired. Look, I don't have any chemical background. I will not have the pretendency to say I know as much as maybe the other people from the company, but I believe very much in school of life, because between the theory and the practice there is a whole world. Okay, so what I've learned, I think, is onboarding the people who have the right mindset. Being in a corporate is completely different when you're building a company. The founder of LinkedIn said, you build a plane, you jump, and as you're falling, you build a plane. That's true. And if you don't have the right mindset, you only see the problem. If you change that mindset, for each problem you come with 10 solutions.
Yeah.
And being in a management, and that's something, I tell my management, and, and if they listen to this podcast, they will definitely think about it.
If they made to the end anyway.
Our job is to turn the impossible into possible.
Yeah.
That's why I get so frustrated when I hear, no, but I was told it was not possible. No, I was told it is not allowed. No, I was told we couldn't. The job of someone in the management, and even more an entrepreneur, is to turn something impossible into possible. That's why I get very frustrated when I hear excuses, because for me, there are excuses. For me, when I get a no, this is when the journey starts. How do I'm going to convert this no into a yes? And until I haven't achieved it, I will not stop. And that, I think, is the right mindset, and the mindset which is necessary if you want to succeed as an entrepreneur, as a CEO, or as a business person.
We have this thing where when we're trying to book guests, if we get a no from somebody, that's a good sign, because that you've opened the communications and you can persuade them. That's such an interesting point. It's we can work on it.
Exactly. And as I was saying, I think the mindset makes a whole difference. I was in Davos, as I was saying, and Elon Musk said, it's better being an optimistic and being wrong than being pessimistic and being right.
Yeah, definitely.
And I couldn't agree more in that. I'm definitely very optimistic, very positive, and I'll always assume that it is feasible and it is possible. And you have to demonstrate me that it is not, rather than starting thinking it is not possible and trying to demonstrate that it is, you see? And I think I've applied very much that mindset, in my football career, and I'm applying it today, not only in my business career, but in my everyday life.
Will you be at Davos next year, do you think?
Maybe.
Yeah, we're gonna be there next.
Amazing. So I'll definitely, if I'm there, I'll see you there.
Do part two.
Yeah.
Mathieu, thanks very much for coming on Jimmy's Jobs of the Future.
Thank you very much.
We've just got a few quick fires for you, if that's all right.
Yes.
Hardest player you've played against in midfield?
Messi.
Yeah, okay. Best player you've played with?
Ronaldinho.
Best defender you've played with?
Paolo Maldini.
Best business book you've read?
Shoes Dog.
Yeah. Favourite goal you scored?
Against Tottenham.
Which one?
The volley.
We are recording this a couple of days after Arsenal have lost the Carabao Cup. How many of the 3 trophies do you think they'll win this season that they're left in?
The remaining 3?
Will Spurs go down?
Look, I mean, like, as an Arsenal fan, obviously, like, this would make me feel extremely good. But I will miss, like, the derby and Arsenal winning every time against them.
What is your favourite meal?
4 cheese pizza.
What, sorry?
4 cheese pizza.
4 cheese pizza. And what advice would you give to a young 21, 22-year-old footballer now?
As I said before, believe in your dream. And if I've made it, and many others did, you can do it too.
What have you used AI for?
Look, I mean, like, I'm using much more like my ChatGPT or like than Google those days. I think like it's having a major impact. And if you don't, it's time for you to do it.
When did you last speak to Arsene Wenger?
It's funny enough, I spoke to him last week.
Oh, right. What about?
Just a few things, personal matter.
Which players are you still in touch with? Is there a WhatsApp group?
Yeah, I mean, like, look, many of them. I mean, like, still speaking to Mesut, Robin van Persie, Bakary Sagna. I mean, like, like, I'm part of this big family of football, and this is part of my DNA. This is who I am. So I will obviously like always be part of it. And yeah, I'm still in contact with a lot of them. We see each other at conferences. We see each other at football games. Yeah.
Who's one of the players that's had the most interesting post-career, do you think? Who's done something that maybe you didn't expect, or?
That's very good question. I mean, difficult to pick one.
Yeah,
but I think
give us a
like
couple of it.
I think like you have very good examples of athletes. I mean, like starting to try to diversify the portfolio. I was reading today. I mean, like you've got Mbappe after Griezmann investing in a company called Alan, it's a French company in France. You have also like other players which are also like diversifying, like doing other things. So I think it's becoming more and more of a trend. We have seen this happening in the US in the past few decades, and I see more and more it is happening in Europe with more and more athletes wanting to basically like diversify the portfolio. Before we were doing like real estate. I mean, like maybe of like maybe a few restaurant or fashion brand, but now I think tech is becoming such a big part of this world. So athletes also want to have like exposure to this world.
What advice do you give a young footballer in terms of how to get good advice around them? Because I think that's one of the hardest things. Because it's just hard when you're 20, 21 anyway to like.
It is very hard, and sometimes we have the tendency to forget. I mean, like you go from being a nobody to being under the spotlight from one day to another.
Yeah.
And you're not always prepared for that. I mean, when it comes to mentally, when it comes also like to people around you, because most of the football players come from very modest background, and the people around those players don't necessarily have the expertise to manage a career, to manage like, millions of euro or pound. So the advice is like surrounding yourself of professionals. It's very important.
Yeah.
And being a professional, like in sport, doesn't mean you're also a professional at investing or a professional at like managing like the wealth of a football player. So I think like getting out of your bubble, getting out of your comfort zone is basically like engaging with professionals for each topic. It's very important. So yeah, I mean, like I think it's key. I mean, like it's key. It's like surround yourself of professionals, people who are truly expert. It's super important, especially like because those careers you think it's long, but it's very short. I mean, compared to a lifetime.
Yeah. If we were building your five-a-side dream team, right? We've got Maldini and we've got Ronaldinho in. Who would be the goalkeeper? And who would make up the other person alongside you?
Look, as I said before, I was lucky enough to play in some of the best teams with the best players. So this is like too difficult, and I wouldn't want to hurt anyone. I mean, I was very lucky because I was maybe not at the beginning, or I was not always the best, but I always worked very hard.
Yeah.
And I think consistency, resilience, hard work is key to success. And I've played with like the most incredible players. As I said, like I played with Thierry Henry, I played with like Pirlo, I played with like Seedorf, Ibrahimovic.
It really is
It was a dream. So I really enjoyed every second, and it would be too hard. I mean, like to limit it to like five aside.
You've lived in some of the best cities in the world. Milan, Paris, London. You live most of your time now in London. Why?
I mean, the first aspect is I love the fact that London is a very cosmopolitan city. It's a melting pot. And I arrived here, as I was saying, I was 19, and I probably have friends from all over the world, from India to China to Middle East. And that's something which is like so grateful, because like different culture, different religion, again, this is an incredible journey. Like you go to it like to an Indian friend, to a Middle East friend. I mean, like this has been helping me to grow as a human being so much. So this is first reason. Two, I think you have access to so many things. I mean, museums, restaurant. I mean, it's such a lively city, and it's an incredible playground.
Yeah.
Incredible playground. And on top of that, you also have a lot of greenery. I mean, so many parks, and I love, like running in those parks, like going for a walk, like I like to take my business call, in a park. I mean, like it's so this is this combination of things which makes London a very special city.
We often do that. We go for a walk when we're trying to sort out a thick problem near here around a park. What do you do to keep fit and so on now? Do you run, gym?
I mean, I do body weight.
Yeah.
I run in the park. I'm trying to do that at least 3 to 4 times a week, even if it's not always easy because I'm traveling quite a lot for work.
Yeah.
But
what's your
trying to
5K
find
time?
5K time, I'll be embarrassed to tell you.
I'm going to get into it after.
I'm not doing, not as well as I would like.
And what one thing could the UK do for entrepreneurship to kind of boost it, encourage it? Like if you were speaking to Keir Starmer, what's the one thing, or Rachel Reeves?
Look, I think maybe like making things first simpler to set up a company.
Mm-hmm.
2, potentially having like to access to capitals.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because like when you have a very early stage, company, I mean, it's very, very difficult to access capitals. So maybe like structure it a little bit better. Also, like recruiting talent is not easy. So maybe having a structure which brings the entrepreneurs, like closer to people looking for jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, like I always say it's difficult to find a co-founder, or to find or to build a team. So bringing people together which have the same mindset and the same vision, maybe could be like a plus.
That serendipity point, really important.
Definitely.
Fantastic. Is there another entrepreneur that we should get on the show that you've come across?
Plenty.
Who?
I'll have a long list. I have quite a list to tell you.
We'll send them across.
Good.
Bro,
Thank you.